Gemara. Today's daf is daf Samachay. We are up to the Mishnah as we're going through every single Aveda that's Chayiv Skila. The Gemara delineates what exactly that Avera is. So the Mishnah daf Samachay Amanal on top of the page. And today's Gemara is actually quite interesting, especially Amid Beis towards the end. So the Mishnah. Baal Oiv. What's Oiv? The Torah says you shouldn't go to an Oiv, a Yudaini, you shouldn't go to a Doida Shalamesim. What exactly is an Oiv? What does he do? These are, I think in English called necromancers. They bring the dead back so that you can ask them questions. How does the Oiv, what's his methodology? Baal Oiv ze pitim hamedaber meshichet. That is basically that you bring a bone, you put it under your armpits, and it starts talking. The mace starts talking. That's what Baal Oiv is. And Yudaini, the Rambam has actually a very different shot than a Baal Oiv. He says that you stand there and you make some smoke and you have some hadas in your hand and you wave it back and forth and you say some kind of chants and words come out. Well, and Yudaini zehamadaba b'piv. Yudaini is someone who speaks with his mouth. Now, Yudaini is basically you put a bone into your mouth. According to Rashi, it's the bone of an animal. According to Rambam, it's the bone of a bird, and the bone starts speaking, and that's the deceased. The punishment is skila. And the person who inquires for them is over an avera. In the beginning of Krisis, there's the first Mishnah there. We'll get there. It says there are 36 averas that you get karis, and the general rule is that an avera karis is you get cut off. If you did not do it deliberately, but you did it inadvertently, b'shaygig, you bring a kar mechatas. And the Mishnah there lists 36. It mentions oiv and omits yidaini. And the Gemara wants to know, why does the Mishnah there omit yidaini while clearly two averas, like it says right here? You get allowed. The person who approaches them, you don't get skilled for that. A lot. It could be if it's a lot. If it's a mice, it's a lot. So well, that's how going. And if he lives in his house, it's yeah, but it's a lot of shame and mice. What do you do? What do you do? And if he didn't go, let's say the guy who happens to come to you. So that's talking. That's all talking. You didn't do anything. So Lav Shemai. We'll talk about Lav Shemai in this page right here later on. Okay, so we want to know there's an Oiv and Yedoni. You want to why our Mishnah lists them both, and in cases it talks about the Karma Chatois and the Lavin does not mention them both. Imagine how you the Baal Oiv, the Yedoni. Imagine the Krisis by the Krisis the Tani. It says there Baal Oiv v'Shayli Yedoni and omits Yedoni. There are two answers. Rabbi Yochanan says, Hoyil ushnein belav echad nemra. Rabbi Yochanan says, because it says al tifnu, the positive al tifnu is one word, that you should not approach them, and it incorporates the oiv and the yedoni, so therefore there's only one lav. And therefore, if you only one lav, if you did it by mistake, both averis, you went to an oiv followed by yedoni, you'll only bring one kar mechatas. Because since they both come under the same lav, they both also only have one chatzah, so there's no chiluk chatois between these two. And that Mishnah discusses all of these 36 averas that receive karas, but they also bring a karma chatzah individually. In fact, that's what the Gemara says there. Why did it give us a number 36? We can count to tell you if you did all of them, behelamachas, you did all of them before you had a chance to realize you were an avera, you bring 36 karbanos. But Yudaini, you would not bring a separate carbon if you did that avera of oik. Why? Because they both come under al tifni. Because Rabbi Yochanan holds the lavin is what separates them from karma chatais as well. The Shlaki doesn't agree with that, and we'll soon see why. He says, you know why you don't bring Yedoni? Because he wouldn't bring a karma chatas. Now, why you bring karma chatas? We already had a few days ago that a karma chatas you need to do a mice. It says you did v'asa achaven. You had to do something, and Yedoni is not called a mice. Why? The guy, this necromancer, he puts the bone in his mouth. At that stage, nothing happened, and then the bone starts talking. So where's the mice? The bone is the one who's doing the talking, not you. So the Shlaka says, you don't need fish ain't by mice. That's not considered a mice. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan, okay, you're telling me you only get one chatas between the oiv and the yedoni, so why talk about say Yedoni? the Mishnah increases. So my answer should have possibly cry. And the pasuk says he shouldn't go to approach an oiv and yidaini. So that's the first thing mentioned in the pasuk. Okay, now the more asks Shlokish. My time. Why doesn't the Shlokish agree with Rabbi Yechanan? The reason is one lav, and therefore there's only one chatas. So the Shlokish says no. The Shlokish says even though as far as the lav is concerned, there's only one lav. Don't go, don't approach. Then it says oiv yidaini. But when it comes to the punishment, the Torah sort of spells out that they both get punished. The Torah there acknowledges that two avedas there. And he says, since when it comes to the punishment, it's divided as two avedas, so the karma chatas also would be divided two avedas. So it would, if you would have brought a chatas for the Yedayni, you would bring two if you did them both. But you know why he doesn't mention Yedayni? Because you don't bring a chatas. And you know why you don't bring a chatas? Because there's no ma'aser. So you want to Papa. Since they're divided when it comes to the misa, that's enough to separate them. Also, karma chatas. And the real reason why you don't bring one, why is I mentioned it? Because there are no chatas. But Rabbi Yechon chalukah the lav shma chalukah. Chalukah the misa lo shma chalukah. Rabbi Yechon says no. The fact that the Torah when it comes to punishment sets them to misa, sets them apart. That's two averas. That's not good enough for karma chatas. The chatas is connected to the lav. Avera b'meiz is the lav. You're not interested in the punishment. Then the chatas you bring two. But since when it comes to the Aveda, al tifnu, it's only one, there's only one lav that incorporates both oiv and yedoni. So therefore, when it comes to chatas, if you did both Avedas together, you'd only bring one chatas.
Just interesting point that I'm not shocking their Shlokish. Shlokish is doing these 8 nice. The Rambam doesn't believe it's magic and things. He says it's only sleight of hand. How to start it. So the guy must be doing it. Must be making
we'll soon see about all about that. That's what the Rambam hearing about. Rabbi Yechon, my time I'm going to Shlokish. Why does Rabbi Yechon give Shlokish? It's a lav shame by Maisa. It's an aim by Maisa the Yedoni. Amalach Masnisin. The Kris is Rabbi Akiva. The Mishnah Kris we acknowledge is Rabbi Akiva, because over there the Mishnah says by Megadef. The Mishnah includes Megadef. Megadef is a blasphemer, and the Gemara and the Mishnah says that Rabban disagree because they hold a lav shame by Maisa by a Megadef. So we see there that Mishnah is following Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva holds that even though there's no Maisa, it's considered a lav. So therefore, you would bring a karma chatas by Yedoni. So why doesn't, because we're following Rabbi Akiva. Why doesn't it mention it? For the reason we said before, there's only one chatas for both. I agree with you. Rabbi Akiva holds you don't need a strong Maisa. But Maisa, you still need some kind of a Maisa. And as we'll see, some kind of Maisa. And here, you're doing nothing. The bone is doing all the talking. What are you doing here? Nothing. Says the Gemara, Megadif, and one asks a question. So there, Rabbi Akiva says the Megadif is doing a Maisa. What's he doing? He's just talking. Rabbi Akiva, sorry, I just lost the place. Megadif, my Maisa, and the Gemara, Akimas Svasav Havi Maisa, moving your lips. That's already a Maisa. You're doing something. Movement. So the Gemara says, okay, so you tell me you don't need, there's no Maisa, but Rabbi Akiva holds that Oiv, there's a, sorry, Rabbi Akiva says Magadav is a Maisa because you're talking. So when I ask a question, Ba'aloi, when it comes to the Oiv, my Maisa Ika, everyone agrees that Chachamim don't argue about Oiv. The Chachamim agree that Oiv, yeah, so what's the Maisa? You put under the arm, and according to some it's the elbow, and some are showing, and it talks. So it was a Maisa. Says the Gemara, you got to flap your hands to make it work. That's already considered a Maisa. So the Gemara, are you telling me that that's sufficient Maisa? Because the Rabbanan in the Mishnah and Kedusha don't argue when it comes to Oiv. They only argue regarding Megadif. So it means the Rabbanan will hold that what Oiv does is considered enough of a Maisa. The Rabbanan also will say it's a Maisa. Is that so? But Tanya will Maisa. You're not chayv only if you did an activity. You're going to buach, slaughtering, kitur, and roasting. These are all real Maisas. And yishtachava, and bowing down. You're doing something physically. You're bowing down, and comes along the Shlokish and says, "Man ton yishtachava, Rabbi Kivi." So according to the Shlokish, the Maisa bending down is not sufficient Maisa to be chayiv. So how come flapping your hands? You're telling me that according to the Shlokish, that's considered a Maisa. What kind of Maisa is it? The Shlokish himself says that Yishtachava is not a Maisa. for according to the bonus, nor would then hakosha zeroisa. Also not a ma'isa. So the answer is sorry. Rabbi Kivi, the Amal loy being a ma'isa. Rabbanon, the Rabbi Yechon argues, and he says that Hashtachava can go according to Rabbanon. Like Tvivim Tamer Rabbanon, Tvivus Kemas Rabbanon have a ma'isa. Rabbi Yechon holds that what bending down is a ma'isa. So according to Rabbi Yechon, flapping your hands is a ma'isa. Okay, so according to Rabbi Yechon, no issues. But the Shlokish who says that bending down, bowing down, and prostrating yourself is not a ma'isa. So where's a ma'isa by Oiv? The Rabban Meiser Shlokish hold that bending down that Meiser Hakoshes Rois with the Baal Oib have a Meiser, and what flapping hands is considered banging hands together is considered a Meiser. Says the Gemara, Kikam, but the Shlokish Nami Rabba Kiva. The Gemara says you're right that when the Shlokish said this whole thing that he's talking about over here about a Meiser and that Yidoini is not a Meiser is only following Rabba Kiva. Yeah, that is considered that this is a ma'isa. The Rabbanon loy, but the Rabbanon takanat a ma'isa. So the obvious question is, if you know the shtachava is not a ma'isa, so why is Oiv then counted in the Mishnah? The Rabbanon, you're telling me Oiv is not a ma'isa either. So how come in the Mishnah increases you're telling me it doesn't mention Yidoini because it's not a ma'isa? Neither is Oiv. And the Rabbanah should argue not only on the Megadeh, they should also argue on Oiv and say there's not a Maisa. Flapping your hands is like bowing, is even less than bowing down. It's not a Maisa. So how come the Mishnah there incorporates Oiv, according to the Shlokish, and it sounds like the Chacham agree? The Mishnah should have said that it should also omit Oiv. El Amarula. The oiv in the Mishnah increases is not the same oiv as here. There, the oiv is doing an extra activity. What's that oiv doing here? The maktil shed that is talking about over here. That he is roasting to the shed who's in charge of all the dead, and that's considered a meiser gomer. But what's he doing? It's an oiv. He's trying to get the dead back. So he's being makted to the shed who's in charge of the basic water to bring back, the dead. Others have a different shot in shed, but that's the idea. Makted the shed. That's avodah zarah mamish. So I jumped ahead a little bit. Right now, the Gemara thinks makted the shed means to shade avodah zarah. Isn't that avodah zarah? It's already included there in the Mishnah increases. Why count oiv as a separate item? And that's our oiv over here is talking about just what we said before, putting a bone. And under your armpits or your knee, by your elbow, and it talks. But over there, you tell me it's much more than that. It's a ma'aseh because you're being maktiv. So that's a avodah zarah. So you might be maktiv lechaver. What you're doing is you're being maktiv to gather together animals. It's called chayv v'chaver. Chayv v'chaver does something all kinds of chants. Sorry. Yeah. Animal, you're right, shading here. So here now we're talking maktiv the shed. Generally, chayv v'chaver is gathering together through magic, but technically, the magic, all these animals. So the same over here, the same idea here. Here is gathering together all the shadim over here. Says the Gemara, so that falls under the other Isra of Chayv Chaver. So again, what is it? Says the Gemara, and Vatayda Amra Chayv Zeh Beskila. So that since you're bringing together shadim, you also get skilla. And it's more than just kara, you get skilla. And we know the rule is if you get skilla, if you have aidin, no aidin, you get karas, and then the chatas. So we're talking about over here is that you're gathering together shadim, which can fall under chayv chaver, but we didn't know that you get skilla until you get skilla for it. And you get so now that you raise the idea of chayv chaver, tell them what we learned. Chayv chaver, the idea of chayv chaver is echad chaver gadol, where they bring a large animal, lions and elephants, you bring them all together. Echad chaver katel, a small group. I feel nechoshim akrabim, you bring together only snakes and scorpions, and you bring them together. And all you do is bring them to one place. You're not bringing them necessarily to you. You bring them all to one area. That's called chayv chaver, using magic. And that is awesome. If somebody brings together a bee and a scorpion, tiny, you bring them all together, even though the whole intention is that they shouldn't bother you or bother people, also is forbidden. So Rashi says, if it's pekuach nefesh, of course you're allowed to do this magic and set them aside. We're talking about here, you just don't want to get hurt, you don't want them to chase after you. That you're not allowed to do. Interesting, Shulchan Aruch, when it brings all this down, the Taz says, based on this Rashi, Mekan, tell the Taz. Because it says here, Rashi says, if they're going to kill you, then you're allowed to do Chay V'Chav. Mekan, for Pekuach Nefesh, you're allowed to do an Avera. It's the oddest thing. In fact, we need to say that 3 Averas, we'll learn in the next page actually, that 3 Averas, that Pekuach Nefesh is not doich. No, it's not about it. He said in clear, it's not about. He said over there, the Kaim are going to have it, but that's not about Zara. It's not about Zara. That's the whole point. If it would be about Zara, it's already included in the 36 Christians. Why is it counted as a separate thing? So we're saying it's not about Zara. It's magic. It's a kind of a magic. Bring all the shading together, or bring the animals together. To say Mekan, that this is the mocker. That's what he says. Mekan. We learn because never we have Mariula. Gemara brings 6 different reasons. Chaybehem, all the different things. And he says in Mekan, I don't know. Anyway, but Rabbi Yechanan, Maishno de Krifas Kamasha, the Rabban have a Meiser. Rabbi Yechanan holds that bending down is a Meiser. And yet Akimas was a Meiser. And moving your lips is not a Meiser. How much more activity is there bending down than moving your lips? Why is this a Meiser? It's not a Meiser. So when I answer, Amarava, Shiny Megadav, Hoyil the Yeshna Belay. Rashi makes a big chiddush here. That Megadav is you have to mean it. If you're saying the words of a Megadav, Yosi Yaka, Yosi Yaka is Yosi, but you meant with the word something else, you're not over. The other Shem argue in Rashi, and Tesil learns the Pashit, that even if you didn't say the words, remember Toma Kodesh, even if you didn't say the words in your mind, you made a Megadav, you said the words of Megadav, maybe she'll give you Kodesh. Anyway, most of the that's the question. So yes, talk about Kormachatas. We go. Most of it says Yotzu Ein Zaymin. The exception is Eidim Zaymin. And what? That there's no She'ein Behem Ma'aser. There's no Ma'aser, and therefore you don't get the Chatz over. But my Halesnu Belev. You're telling me that the only reason why Megadav is not considered a mice, even though he's talking, because you don't need to talk, it's mainly about the heart, even the words are just expressing your thing. No, by Ein Zaymin, it's nothing with your heart. We don't care what your heart thinks. By Ein Zaymin, it's the words. The words is a mice. Just like if you're bowing down as a mice, so are the words. And the Gemara, Rava says, Shiny Ein Zaymin, Holy Yeshna you have to say it loud. If you said it quietly, the Bezin inherits. You're not. So the real thing is the koil. The koil is expressing the words, but because the koil is the main thing, and koil is not a mice. No, we're saying here no. Right now, the word is also the mice. Moving the lips. Akimas fosav, the moving the lips is the mice. So we're saying here the moving the lips is on its own is nothing. It's the koil that the Bezin can hear it, and that's what makes it. So therefore, koil is not a ma'aser. We learn in Babatzia, chasam b'koil, v'iniga b'koil, that you muzzle the animal, but not by muzzling its mouth. You just every time it bent down to eat, you screamed at it. Rabbi Yechanan chayiv, chayiv b'shvag l'potter. Rabbi Yechanan says chayiv, akimas kriv habe ma'aser. And all you're doing is screaming. So how can Rabbi Yechanan say Eden Zayman is not a ma'aser? Bowing down is a ma'aser. So Eden Zayman, you're a potter. Akimas kriv habe ma'aser. Elamalov shayim zem hoil v'yeshna b'riyah. Peldig very quickly. Rashi says Riyah means because they ate this as you saw something. All the Shem asking Rashi, based as especially cases in the Maktas Avobah learned there, Ein Zaymin did not see anything. That's the whole point of Ein Zaymin. They're liars. What do you mean, Holy Yeshna B'riyah? A normal Eidim, we say the Eidim starts the moment you saw. But in Zaymin, we say Dafka comes free in front of Bezin because nothing, you didn't see anything. So it's a beautiful long riff. It brings 5 different Gesayos in the Gemara. Is it Be'iyah, bottom line is he brings from one of the Goinim. He says the Goinim is cryptic, doesn't say what's talking about. He's like this: that remember I told you yesterday Machlekes Mishal Melech and the Chinuch and Aveda that is Lav Shema Ma'aser, but he did a Ma'aser. What's it? You learned before that if one aide says this is what happened and goes all the details, and the second aide says I agree, it's enough. Aya is I agree. Aya, yeah. Aya, yeah. And he says, Akimas Fosafai Mises of the Div, it's the lips. Aleph, Yud, Hey, there's no lips involved. Ayah. So therefore, there's no Misa. I Lepoil, the Adam do say something. So this is the shit that we said yesterday that allow She'ema Misa. Even if you end up doing a Misa, it's considered allow She'ema Misa. The Baal Shem Tov once said, beautiful word. What does it mean that? So he says, your Sfasayim will never become tired of saying Dalad Yud because your lips don't say the Dalad Yud. It's the other part of your mouth. So just like your lips will never become tired of saying Dalad Yud, the Abish's Baruch should go on forever. Same thing as the Rif says right here, that Aleph Yud K is something that is Akimas Fasa. So it's not, we always touch it doesn't mean saying words. He says, no, it's the movement of the lips, literally. And the Aleph Yud and the K have no movement of lips. So there's no Maisa here. And then he says, when the Gemara says, Behei, Nivra Olam Hazing, Mar Menachos will learn that the letter Hey, he says, what do you mean the letter Hey? Because Hey is the only letter you don't have to open or close your mouth. You don't have to move your lips. You don't have to touch, close your tongue and up your tongue. He says, you just open your mouth and breathe. It's a Hey. So that's, he said that the world is Aniyavai Loishanisi is expressed more by the letter Hey than any other letter. The Shittas say. Look at that. Anyway, beautiful it. All right, learned. What's a baloi? A baloi is somebody who speaks. That means that it actually comes out of the joints. The joints. That the voice comes from there. Now remember that the Shaul HaMelech went to this woman there, and he brought down Shmuel Hanavi. So it's not it's not Baba Meiser. The Torah says clearly. And also between I guess the fingers there. He puts a bone called from an animal or a bird called Yudua, the people in his mouth, and it speaks on its own. Says the Gemara, makes a question about you be like an oiv, and from the ground will come your voice. You're telling me that the dead person comes into the oiv and sits there in the joints, and it talks. But l'chayda there it says me'eretz kailach. It's still lying in his grave, and the voice is rising from there. My love them he's lying there and it talks from there. Well, no, the soul of Yesmen Aprakim. No, it goes into the joints and talks from there. But it talks very quietly, so it sounds like it comes from the ground. And why is it going quietly? Because it has no neshama. I see this very chashuv person coming from the ground. Says close mir, my love the mishtoy kirchi. That's the voice is coming from the ground. Loy di yosef ben haprokim umishtoy. He rose from the ground, but he's sitting there in the joints and he's speaking as if he's coming around. Rashi learns that the dead body would sit on top of the male organ of this mechashiv. Faces completely disagrees. He says he completely agrees. He said that there's no way in the world by Shaul HaMelech it happened. But first of all, Shmuel Navi, but more than that, it was a woman. So how can you say that's what they do? He's just saying that's the name of Machshefis. That's what's the name of Machshefis. Don't do with where physically the body went. The Echad Anisha is if you ask a question from the skull, that's what he's lying on the ground, and the skull talks to you from Kishiv. Ma Bezel is that what's in it too? Ma'ila bezachura ain't oila kedarkei. Ma'ila does not go his feet. It goes feet first, not head first. Masenga Shmuel came head first, and that's why she was all confused. The ain't oila b'Shabbos does not rise on Shabbos. Doesn't say why. It doesn't rise on Shabbos. Nishal bilgul goylis. If you're talking to the skull, oila kedarkei. It goes up the normal way, and in other words, it doesn't even go to with the joints. It just talks from the skull directly. But oila b'Shabbos. Oila lehecha salik. Hakamim goes up. It's sitting right there. What do you mean goes up? The skull is sitting on the ground. The skull talks normally and even on Shabbos. What's so special about Shabbos? What's special about you? You're human like everybody else. My boss wants me to be the Balabas, the king. No, so he says Shabbos not be the Moed Tzavi. The boss of the world wants the Shabbos. This is what I meant to ask. Who told you the Eden Shabbat? Who told you today Shabbos? Now the Gemara does not say anything at all what these three words mean. Hasabat. So Rashi brings the Shodesh Nachuma. Rashi brings the Hasabat Nichia. There's a river, and we say it's somewhere in Africa. On the other side of the river is Shvatim. There's a river that constantly the stones rain there, except on Shabbos throws rocks, and on Shabbos it stops. The water is calm. All kinds of stories of Chaim Benetz and others that they crossed the river on Shabbos and they couldn't come back. The Maisa with Agdomus. What do you mean?
Nahar Echad Shel Avodi.
Yeah, full of stones. Yeah, but it's full of stones. Yeah. Very true. In other words, it doesn't say that stones go flying up and down like we always say. You just say it's very rocky. Yeah, very strong rapids, and then on Shabbos it's calm, placid. Got to find that river. So, yeah, he said Nahasabat Yechiach. That's one proof. Proof number two, Baloy Yechiach. The Oiv, remember, it only works during the week and not on Shabbos, bringing up the dead. And the third one is, and Kibbur Shloviche, your father's Kibbur. Your father, his Kibbur will prove it. He was a Rasha, and smoke was in Gehenna, but on Shabbos, She'em Al Oshim b'Shabbos. Sarai that Goyim also rest on Shabbos. There's no Gehenna on Shabbos. That's what we're talking about a Goy here. Others want to say that he was actually Megaya. Amallah, he said to him, Bizisa, you embarrassed my father, by Shusa, you shamed him, and Kilalta, and you basically blasphemed against him. Shoyel Oiv, isn't that the Doidish Mesim? Isn't that the same thing as Doidish Mesim, inquiring from the dead? Doidish Mesim, we learned the Doidish Mesim. What's the Doidish Mesim? Something totally different. So Hamadi Batsma, you starve yourself, go Hoilich Valom Beis HaKvaris, and you go sleep, reside in the Beis HaKvaris, because they should tishra olav ruach hatumah. You want, the way Rashi learns, you want that the Shin Dalad of the Beis HaKvaris should become your friend and help you in your witchcraft. Always have other pshat. Akiva came to this pasuk. He used to cry. Does somebody starve himself? Kadesh tishra olav ruach tumah. And he goes to basic quotes. Shoira Olav he is successful in becoming, whatever the kind of witchcraft he wants to use. Hamadi Olav if somebody fasts because he wants ruach tara, he's alachas kamel kamel. Surely it should rest in him because we know that midas is much more than midas pranius. And yet, it's not happening. What should I do? It's our fault. Remember, it says, your sins is what separates you. Omar Rav, the most exceptional thing. If Rav said like this, Tzadiki, Alma. Tzadiki want, they can create the world just like the Eibishter. Shenever says, what sets apart you from the Eibishter? You're Avedis. Otherwise, it's an amazing thing. There's a chassid from the Alter Rebbe who was first he was literature and became a chassid. So he met Rosh Yeshiva once from Vilna, and she said to him, "How can you become a chassid Alter Rebbe when the chassidim say that their Rebbe is greater than Hashem?" So here we have a Gemara, right? An amazing Gemara. Sometimes there is a medrash that says in Shalach tzadikim daimim l'baydan. We had examples of Heide, doila ma'aser tzadikim, all these wonderful things. But here he's saying here that the only thing that's separate is the Avinus. Wouldn't be for Avinus, like Rashi says, there's no separation between you and the Eibishter. Amazing. So anyway, this chassid said, "You're 100% right. My Rebbe is much greater than your Eibishter. My Eibishter, after this is a whole different story." Anyway, Rabba Bora Gavra, Rabba created a golem. He said he created a golem. Shadr the Kamer of Zayda, sent it to Rav Zayda. Some say it's Rabba because Rabba and Rav Zayda were friends. And why would Rabba send to Rav Zayda not to Abayu or some other ones? Well, obviously you put all the stories together with Rabba and Rav Zayda, you'll get a full picture of what really was going on. Must have been another agenda going on over there, subtext. Anyhow, some of the Shem say it's Rabba. Rabba created a person, sent to Rav Zayda, have a commishtay, they were talking, he didn't answer. I'm like, Michavraya, you must have been created. You're a robot. You were created a golem. You were created by one of my friends. Hadul Africh. Go back to your dust. There's a Chacham Tzvi in Shuvah Tzaddik Gimel, famous Chacham Tzvi. The Chacham Tzvi was asked if you create a golem, can you be counted as a minion? And the Chacham Tzvi's grandfather was Rabbi Eliyahu Mechelm, who actually created a golem. So it was pertinent. So he goes a whole arichas and he concludes because the Gemara says over here The Reb Zayda put him back to dirt. Because they put him back to dirt, why is it murder? Is a raya that it's not murder because you're not considered living, you're living. So the Yaakov writes, because my father had to write a raya, is a raya, had it not been for this raya, you were targeting human beings. Which means even after the raya, he's a shtickle human being, just you won't be charged for murder. He says, I don't understand, why are you shtickle human being? The Targum, sorry? And he has to bring a raya. Just say he's not human. You created by a person.
Was trying to say that
he's not, and the raya, exactly, you have to what I mean. And
everybody else in the world just wanted to go to them. They need it badly.
Okay. Shiva's more in Megillah, she's the Pirkei Avos. The what do you call it? So the Dr. Tshuva talks about it as well. The fact that Chansri brings a raya, he always uses, and the Zayda said Hadalafrach is a raya that he's not really treated as a human being. There's anyway, very interesting. You have Yaakov argues with his father. That's what my Kabbalah says. The Mishnah says Hakol Sheichtin. I mean also again as well. Then there's a question. Okay, interesting. We had a few days ago that he created a. We see right now. Then what it says here, Rab Chanina, and how do you create a person through Sefer Yitzid? As we'll see, Chanina Rabbi Yishia have a Yasi was sitting Kol Ma'ala Shabbat every Friday. Va'oski b'Sefer Yitzid, and they were learning Sefer Yitzid. On the side, he brings a Behilchas Yitzid. I have no idea what that's talking about. But Sefer Yitzid is Avraham Avinu Sefer. Avraham wrote it. They create Igla Tilsa. Now, Igla Tilsa, we have it all over Shas. There's two opinions in Shani what it means. Either the third-born animal. The third-born animal is the juiciest. The middle child syndrome is actually the best. And the parents are still, much more fresh. They know what they're doing, and they're not yet too old to be tired and so on. And others say Igla Tilsa means that the animal reached a third of its age, which Rashi says here. If it reached a third of its age, Rashi actually brings it to Shot. If it reached a third of its age, that's the prime of the animal. And also they ate it. So the Achreim have a whole chakira whether you have to shecht an animal that created by Sefer Yitzid or not. Anyway, Yishchon Aruch talks about whether you're allowed to create things using Sefer Yitzid, and the Shach writes over there, but Bizman Hazeh, you shouldn't use Kabbalah because we're not Kadoshim, we're not Tara, and Dafke Bizman Hazeh, 100 years after the Shach, is when Chassidus started and Kabbalah became prevalent everywhere. What am I learned? Ma'aynin. What's a ma'aynin? The thing I'll go to ma'aynin. What's a ma'aynin? The word ayin. They would take 7 different types of shichus and smear his eye with it, and somehow or another this gave magic ability to see things. With features. Magic. And we'll learn more about it in the future, but there's a big machlik is how can you go watch magic today, a magician and all that, if there's a problem.
Your voice is starting to break up a bit.
Okay, sorry, bring it in. Is it any better now? Not much better? I'll bring it even closer. Okay, hopefully this is better. We're learning about a ma'aynin. So ma'aynin comes from the word eye. So it's the slay of the hand that tricks the eye. The Kiva says, no, Kiva says, no, only comes with times. This is somebody that says, this is a good time to do something, it's a bad time. Today is a good day to go out on a trip. Tomorrow is a good day to buy things. It's a good, I see in the stars, wonderful things. And let's say that I learned that wheat is the best time to plant wheat in the year before Shemitah, it grows best. All of these signs they done and he acts on them. Or to pull out instead of harvesting, to actually uproot them, and I won't, and therefore it's a guarantee something. All of these different signs. That's called ma'aynin signs. Now we also will learn more about it in Chulun, but we also do signs. We don't get married as it used to be. We don't get married the second half of the month because we're getting smaller. We also have all of these gulas. There's a difference between a simon or menachesh. Simon is okay, you do something, Tuesday is a good day for things to happen, and it gives you some amuna, faith, and confidence that it will work. But it's not like you run your whole life around these kind of simonim that won't do things because of that. We married today in the second half of the month as well. Because in other words, we don't limit or we're not superstitious. What have we learned? Menachej is somebody says, oh, beating off my people. A bread fell out of my mouth, it's a bad sign. It's not going to do something today. Makling off my stick fell out of my hand. But now his tongue suddenly crawled upon you from behind you. A raven called you. You crossed the tzvi. The world says you went on a ladder or things. You're walking down the street, there was a snake on your right and a fox on your left. Al task will be don't come to me right now, coming to raise taxes or something. He said, don't come to me. First thing in the morning, I should pay debts. It's a very bad sign. The first day of the month, to start off with debts, a very terrible thing. Like say Shabbos, the first day of the week, the first moment of the week, I should already start paying debts. It's a terrible sign. All of these things is called menachesh. These are hamenacheshim bechula. They menachesh and echula and a weasel. I know they start something, they see a hole in it, it's a good sign, bad sign, or a bird or a fish, and all of these things, And we'll tell you tomorrow the Machlek and the Rambam. See you tomorrow, Mitzvah. Have a good day.
Thanks. Bye.